format of a roundtable is because the vision of this report is to take all of the members of the community and focus on collaboration. The administration, the various departments, many who have had initiatives in this area, the business community, many who've had initiatives in this area, and clearly the higher education community, which have had initiatives in this area. Bring everyone together who has been supportive of maybe part of an idea here and part of an idea there to talk about the plan. The goal of the plan was to bring everyone together, all the good ideas, all the thoughts, all of the good things that are happening in the state, and bring this diverse group of stakeholders together. We have the business community, the chambers, the construction industry, educators, National Grid, energy producers, and of course our state agencies. What this Grow Green Jobs Rhode Island Legislative is an action plan. And what we're trying to do is match the environmental challenges that we as a state and a country and a world face with employment opportunities that we know are available. We all know that 2014 and 2015 were the hottest years on record. We know that we boast 400 miles of coastline here in the Ocean State. And we know that adapting to the challenges that are going to be posed by things such as the rising seas, changing storm patterns, inadequate gas supply in the winter, presents opportunities for job growth. The Senate has and continues to be focused on the economy and how to get our residents back to work with decent wages. In past years, we took an example, the Arts District, and we tied that to the community. We met up at Fidelity, tying in the business community, and we recognized that creative jobs were a growing part of our economy, and we were able to implement through the budget and through pieces of legislation a cohesive group, and folks who all shared commonality had never really sat at the same table together to realize that their diverse interests really intersected far more than they believed. And when we see an area of potential strength and great potential, such as we did now, we feel it's incumbent on us. A couple of the reporters ahead of time asked me if we expected growth. This is actually a great one to say, because one of the things we found when we were looking at this issue is the green economy is already growing. It's grew at 6 times the rate of our broader economy. In 1 year, our clean energy industry grew by 6.6%. creating 613 local jobs in 2015. And that was at a time when the overall jobs were just growing by 1%. Clearly, we need to get government out of the way of the business sector and make their services, such as solar, more affordable to homeowners and accelerate and surpass last year's growth. So this is an action plan that we believe, if enacted, will create expanded opportunities for the state's youth, workers, businesses in dealing with environmental challenges. One of the things I did want to mention in these opening remarks is that clean energy and energy efficiency businesses rely on employees in the construction and building trades. Which are they? A couple people have asked. Renovators, heat and ventilation workers, plumbers, and electricians. Those professions were extremely hard hit during the recent recession, reaching an unemployment rate in excess of 20%. We need to get these people back to work, and the green sectors can provide steady and dependable employment. In addition, the clean sector also has jobs in design, manufacturing, marketing, operations, research, and of course, technology. And as these sectors expand, and you'll note in the report some of the major corporations that are investing in this area, the jobs are going to expand. So we want a workforce that's ready to be employed. And I'm looking at Rob over there from DLT. And we also, as I started this by saying, saw opportunities to build on another one of our local strengths, one that Senator Sosnowski has been such a leader on, working together with Janet Coit, our local agriculture and seafood businesses. We all love the fresh, healthy sound of the farm-to-table use of our local seafood and crops. And here lies another opportunity for us to encourage expansion. They asked me to make the pun, or growth, through small grants, training workers, and encouraging innovation. More farming means more jobs in both production and food services, not to mention the opportunities for job in reusing waste to energy. Matching our environmental challenges with these almost immediate, these aren't down the road, almost immediate employment opportunities is the focus of this report. And the legislation that we want to talk about today, some of it will be actual bills that need to pass, some will be resolutions that, working with various directors and resource recovery, we've actually, our staff has been able to put together ideas that are realistic that we want to present today, and we want to hear from you. So I think the best way to start, most of you are familiar with my Deputy Chief of Staff, but the Director of our Policy Office, who I've managed to lose, and I know she's in green, Dr. Marie Ganner. What I thought would be a good way to proceed, to break it up a little, would be to turn to just the recommendations of the report, maybe go over two at a time, because when I was looking at them preparing the other day, I realized they linked together, and then get feedback from a couple of you with regard to each of them, and that'll allow for a little discussion. Obviously, you can see the names of the senators that are here today. We're 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I know some folks have other press conferences to go to, some had other things, so not everyone's here, but I want you to know we will and expect that all of the senators will be signing on to some, if not all, of these initiatives. So the first two recommendations that you find in this report are to expand the workforce development opportunities and create educational and training pathways for jobs in the green economy. Those of you who have been following the work of the Senate know that our focus on education and training pathways began 3 years ago, and we have enjoyed working with the departments and the higher education system moving forward in that direction. So, Director, would you just, in fact, brief generally those two topics and what they embrace?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The Real Jobs Rhode Island was an exciting opportunity for us in Rhode Island. The governor and the Department of Labor and Training rolled it out earlier, about a little less than a year ago. And what it does is it matches business needs with training opportunities. And it is something that we in the Senate have been requesting of the Department of Labor and Training for years, and we were just delighted to see the program. And certainly it took an infusion of dollars, and those dollars mostly are federal, right?
Absolutely.
There will be another rollout of the Real Jobs Rhode Island coming in the spring or early summer, and it is our hope that with this report drawing attention to the fact that we have so many opportunities in these sectors, that they will make a concerted effort to invite green sectors to come forward with proposals to plan for how to train, how to find jobs in these sectors for folks. I have his name tag. Senator, thank you, Senator Palm. So that's our first recommendation, is to work with DLT. The second one, we have in the Senate been very actively engaged with the Governor's Workforce Board over the years, encouraging different kinds of coordination, different kinds of attention to the Governor's Workforce Board as a major coordinator of training activities and workforce development in the state. And the second recommendation goes right to that and asks again for them to be looking very clearly at developing career pathways and workforce development programs under the auspices of the Governor's Workforce Board.
To that end, now, Governor Raimondo and Scott Jensen at DLT have been real leaders, and as Marie said, the Senate has worked for years on this issue. We like to think that their stealing of one of our former employees who worked on the plan made a little bit of the difference. So to that end, I'd like to call on Rob, if you don't mind, Rob, for a few comments about the initiatives that are going on over at DLT and how we can, in fact, grow green jobs over at DLT.
Absolutely. Director Jensen sends his best. He's in Washington, D.C. I would do an impression, but I haven't drank enough coffee, so I'm not going to try to pretend I'm Scott Jensen. But we absolutely, first of all, we appreciate the recognition that Real Jobs Rhode Island as the vehicle through which a lot of this collaboration can happen, recognizing that in the report. And Madam President, you mentioned collaboration around this table. And that's really what Real Jobs is all about. It's about industries coming together, identifying their universal skills gaps and needs that just aren't being met, and building the systems around that demand that serves as the center of gravity. So we're excited to work with the Senate on identifying and, quite frankly, probably call upon a lot of the folks that are around this table to bring all of the different resources and great work that's going on in job training, in facilitation, in the green job sector, and have employer demand be the orbit around which all that functions so that we can feed this growth that is profiled in the report.
Thanks, Rob. And you don't have jobs without education. So I'll let you guys draw the short straw since the corner is over there. But the report addresses and raises possibilities and a vision that education can play. And with us today we have Barbara Cottom, the chair of the Education Board, as well as Commissioner Purcell from Higher Education. Whoever would like to go first, or however you'd like to address that initiative.
I think the big thing is centered around what Rob talks about, is making sure that we connect the jobs that are needed in this state to really the workforce training. And certainly we want to make sure that we become leaders in particular areas, and this certainly can be one of those. The key component of that is to have that conversation, like he says, with business and industry, but the same way making sure there's an appropriate career path so that there's a seamless transition from people taking courses in high school in those particular fields, transitioning directly into work or into credentials that may be certificates or vocational, but then on into associate degrees and bachelors. To me, the key is to build something that allows these individuals not only have access to a job now, but a career over their lifetime.
I don't know if there's anyone else from URI or Rick or CCRI or Barbara, if you'd like to say any words. Let me just say this. I sincerely appreciate the coordination and the initiative that the Department of Ed has taken in recognizing, not just with this environmental initiative, but across the industry sectors, the importance of matching our economy's demands with the educational needs. So thank you very much. We also have John Gregory, I believe, here. I don't know. Oh, there you are. You're also wear a hat at the Governor's Workforce Board. Is that correct? I don't know if you'd like to add a little something.
Well, I think it's all been said. I mean, one of the things that is probably most exciting about the Governor's Workforce Board, and I see Leader Ruggiero, and I go back to our Human Resource Investment Council Board, is this brings all facets of the Rhode Island leadership into play, the business community, and my colleague Janet Raymond from the Greater Providence Chamber, also on the Governor's Workforce Board, here with us today. And again, the labor representatives, the education representatives. What this starts to do, Madam President, we commend you and your colleagues on the Senate. This is a continuation of what you've been talking about for the last 6 to 8 years anyway, but this just
I didn't want to
really,
go back that far.
Right, exactly. What this probably does a little bit more, though, is it really helps us focus it in, and I commend and thank you and your colleagues for recognizing the great job that's happening with Real Jobs. So it's all good stuff.
And I did want to also point out we have the Dean of the URI Business School with us as well, and I don't know if you want to add anything too.
Well, thank you, Madam President. If I may, I just moved from Florida about 6 months ago, and of course people are making joke about my move, why I'm coming here, but people don't know I really love Rhode Island and University of Rhode Island. One thing that I noticed that I just received this one. I took a quick look at it, Madam President, and I commend everybody who's involved in this project. In Florida, they started working on this, and I haven't seen anything comprehensive that focuses on green jobs. And this is really great piece, and I want to make sure that we at the University of Rhode Island look at this very carefully. One thing that I would like to mention, at least at the University of Rhode Island, we have started a process several years ago. We're already looking at green businesses, and we already have a program, a dual program with resource economics, and the title actually is Green Business Degree. And I have actually the author of the program sitting right there, Dr. Rosen. So if there's any further details required, we can provide it. Thank you for the
And that's exactly one of the reasons I'm glad you're here is as you go through the report, one of the things we tried to do, whether it was the Jason project, which is housed and helps with the elementary environmental education, whether it's the things that some of the private institutions like Tufts is doing at the Swiss Village, the greater degrees, or CCRI and the certificate programs, we believe they're seeds. And by having all of you together and talking, what we want to do is invest and grow and prioritize existing programs. Just because we did business, I feel like we should touch base with labor. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Scott?
Of course, I'll figure out something. Now I have two microphones. I better be twice as articulate. Well, as you know, it's been terrible in the construction landscape for like the last 6 or 7 years in Rhode Island. In the unionized construction landscape, I'm talking about in particular, not the residential. We're talking about large commercial and projects of size. Each year as the session begins, we kind of think of those everyday poetic lyrics of the blues song, I've been down so long, it looks like up to me. But I think this year we actually believe, with a combination of factors, that it indeed looks up. We have a real guarded optimism that this will be a better year. Green jobs, of course, in every which way in the construction industry benefits us in particular because we are trained. Green jobs are more complicated. And when you look at green to existing buildings, you mentioned some of the trades, but when you go to an existing building and try to fix its antiquated heating system, antiquated plumbing system, what happens is you push the envelope and other trades get involved. You end up with, you have to replace walls and the glazers put in new windows that are they're better for the environment. The roofers put on new materials on roofs that have never been used before. So each time you're doing this, it creates a ton of jobs. And we are uniquely prepared because of our training. Now, we're not unafraid or embarrassed to occasionally take outside funding or grants to improve our facility for specific training. But we have monies through collective bargaining, management and labor that we train all year round. We've had the problem in recent years, what are we going to train people for when there's no place to go? So I think this is going to be part of the turnaround where we can have specific training for specific work.
Great. The next two items on the report, once again to break it up a little, are supporting the growth of renewable energy industries and expanding energy efficiency programs to include delivered fuels. Dr. Ganem, if you would.
Thank you. So we have a number of programs that we want to build upon in the state, and we want to make certain that they live beyond their termination dates that they have right now. We want to make certain that they're expanded, not so they break the bank, but so that they at least send a signal to the businesses that are out there that Rhode Island is willing to invest in renewable energy. We have an opportunity with delivered fuels, which is such things as oil, heat, and other pellets and wood and other things, to actually help them develop an efficiency program. Everyone knows that Rhode Island ranks very, very high in our efficiency programs for folks who heat with gas, but we don't have really much in place at all for folks who have delivered fuels. And that's about 40% of our residential and commercial. So it is our intent in this report to try to work with the administration, and actually Senator Sosnowski had legislation last year asking the Office of Energy Resources to specifically look at this issue and to come back with us with recommendations. So we look forward to following up on that this year.
To that end, maybe it's a good time to hear from Janet Coit, the Director of DEM.
So thank you for this excellent report as well. I'm going to turn it over to Marion, but I just feel like you've highlighted the fact that when we look at improving our adaptability and resilience in the face of climate change, we have opportunities, whether it's through using native plants and local landscapers, or whether it's by being smarter about promoting renewable energy and efficiency. So I think there is a huge win-win there that we're already on our way, but this is very much helping us, and I know the governor is so supportive, and this is excellent. I'm going to turn to Marian, though, for specifics on this.
Okay, thank you. And thank you so much for this really terrific report. I was so excited when I read it, and I want to thank the leadership, your leadership, the governor's leadership, and also the House. Everyone's worked really hard in Rhode Island, and I will say, kind of on the forefront in the energy field, we were surprised by the news that we got when we did the Clean Energy Report last year at how strong the job sector was. And I think that we have a lot of pent-up demand. I was just saying that to Scott. I think we're going to see even more growth, so the training opportunities will be great. One of the things that's really interesting is that when you talk to young people, whether they're in high school, at a VOTEC school, or middle school, learning about electricity, or in college, the most popular college major now is sustainability. And I mean, I think there's a real interest in the part of the kids in not only being able to find a job that pays well, but also does something to address our really important social issues. On the delivered fuel topic, and one of the things, another thing I'll say, when we did the first data-driven state energy plan, we were really pleased to find that we could, if we worked really hard, create a clean energy future that reduced our carbon emissions, grew our economy, and was also more resilient, getting to Janet's point. So we've been working very hard with the Climate Change Council that Janet is the chair of to figure out how we work together to do that. On the delivered fuels front, we are doing really well on the electricity side, but not so much on transportation or with the heating oil sector. So I'm really pleased to see that idea come forward, and we have been working with the heating oil industry and the propane industry to come up with a way that we can move forward together, build their businesses. It's a significant number of jobs in that sector as well, and it's great to have the business community at the table. The last thing I'll say is the work that has been done through the leadership to create the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank has been phenomenal. We just got the applications for the first new energy financing tool, the Efficient Building Fund. We got 3 times more applications for funding than we have funds available, which I think, again, indicates pent-up demand and also a lot of really hard work on the part of our partners at National Grid, with cities and towns, the Treasurer's Office, the Governor's Office. So really a great opportunity, and I think if we all work together, we can make it happen. I've heard that someplace before.
No, great. And you've been one of the people that I think has been involved in these discussions as far back as I can remember. I don't know if Rob had to tell us 6 years, but it's been a long time, and so it's great to have you here. We also, is Jamie Rhodes from Enviro, Rhode Island. There you are, Jamie. Would you like to, on this one?
Yes, Madam President and everyone here, thank you very much for putting this together. I think there's a number of recommendations in here that the environmental community as a whole think are just phenomenal, and especially putting at the front the extending the renewable energy standard, since we know it's led to Rhode Island being a leader in both our renewable energy as well as our building our energy efficiency. Two things to add to this is that we talk about energy efficiency for delivered fuels, which we need to expand on, but we still haven't met our max cost savings from traditional energy efficiency programs. And we need to continue to invest in that because it continues to grow both our local workforce as well as reducing overall impacts on climate change. And I will be the one to bring up something that is not necessarily in here, but I know this year the discussion is going to start happening on a carbon tax bill. I know Senator Connolly here is looking to introduce that, and this is the type of game-changing opportunity we have to really take a look at how do we reduce the impacts we have on climate change and start putting money into local energy efficiency, nudge the efforts behind consumers making decisions to support renewable energy and giving them the incentives to do so, and as well as the resources to do it, and to make sure that we're investing in our local economy by moving some of that money for fossil fuels to local renewable energy.
Somehow, Jamie, I'm not surprised you mentioned that.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't bring it up. Thank you very much.
I also, the next two on the list are enhancing the growth of the renewable thermal industries, and as well as reducing our costs to continue the growth of Rhode Island's solar industry. Dr. Ganem?
Thank you. Right now, when National Grid or other purchasers of energy purchase, they need to get a certain percentage from renewables, and that goes back to our renewable energy standard. And we don't necessarily in Rhode Island consider all types of renewables that other states do in that. And so we're looking particularly, and we hope to work very closely with you in National Grid to try to articulate what is available and what some of those sources might be that would be available that are not too costly or that would help or that we can help to incentivize and to grow in the state. So that's number 5. And hopefully Blake, who's here from Newport Biodiesel, might have something to say about that too. And then on number 6, in the solar industry in particular, everyone has seen the growth in that industry, and we'd love to see it double or triple. And so if we can do things to bring the cost down and to streamline the permitting process to make it easier for that industry, then we would be doing, I think, a great service and seeing many more people employed. So that's the number 6.
And with that, I can't think of a better way to go than with Blake Benke, and I have time to confess, as the senator that represents Newport and Jamestown, I know a little bit about Newport Biodiesel, but before you talk, I will say the second signature on every biodiesel bill has been Leader Algier, because he also has a biodiesel company in Westerly. What is the name of yours?
Guardian? Guardian?
Oh, yeah, Guardian. So you have bipartisan biodiesel support here. Blake?
Hello to everyone. This is a new crowd for me, so I introduced myself first. And we're very excited in Newport Biodiesel about point number 5. I think a REC program is critical to being competitive against the other states around us that have these programs.
Thank you. And it would also, the Northeast Energy Council.
That's me. Hi, thank you so much.
Hi.
And I just want to echo, thank you, the sentiments of Commissioner Gold and Janet Coit from earlier. Thank you so much for the leadership in this report and your leadership in years past on clean energy initiatives. So just for those who don't know, the Northeast Clean Energy Council represents clean energy businesses throughout the Northeast, defined as New England and New York. And we're really excited to see all of the ways that Rhode Island recognizes that clean energy can add, business opportunities, job growth, in-state use of clean energy. It's just really exciting to see the leadership on this. And clean energy really is our only in-state resource for energy. We don't have our own natural gas, we don't have our own coal, but we do have wind and we do have sun and we do have ample energy efficiency. So I'm really excited to see some in-state, in-region jobs in Rhode Island from clean energy businesses. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Ryan.
Oh, I'm sorry. National Grid, Mike Ryan.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for convening this group. It's really representative of the kind of cooperative things that have gone on in the Senate over the years, particularly as it relates to energy issues, because that's what we're involved in. When you call everyone around the table and say, here's where we want to be, we don't know exactly how to get there, but you show us, get together and come up with some solutions. And that's been, I think, the source of much of the success that we've had, particularly as it relates to renewables and the energy efficiency program that we spoke of earlier. I think we get criticized in this state for being 45th in this issue and 50th in this issue and the worst in this issue. We're in energy efficiency programs. We're number 5 in the country, and that's something to be very proud of.
Marion's saying we've moved to 4.
When do we get to 4?
I just couldn't let that happen.
Oh, we are 4. I'm sorry.
And number
That's right.
1 for utility funded.
Okay, that's very good. And we've saved millions and millions of kilowatt hours with that, and with that, the savings to customers. And it's critical, I think, for us and certainly for everyone around this table to understand that we want to get more green into the economy. We want to get more green into our system. And at the same time, we have the challenge of, as others have mentioned, keeping the cost down to the extent that we can, making it economically viable, because critical to the future of the economy is going to be bringing forward products that make us more competitive. And the kind of work that we're doing with companies now, I think, probably goes to that. We've had chats with the governor, certainly with you, Madam President, with the treasurer. And the work that the infrastructure program, for instance, is going to create, that's the kind of thing we ought to be doing. And to increase level of green in our system and in the economy can only mean good things as long as we get our eye on the ball relative to the dual goals of price and green. And I think we can set the mark for the country.
And thank you. And National Grid has been a true partner. I know I've witnessed debates among many of you in the room, and it seems somehow we've always managed to come out with Rhode Island on top. So thank you. The next two recommendations are a little bit lengthy, but very important. What I'd like to do is recognize Dr. Ganim, and one by one I want to recognize some of the senators here. I was waiting till everybody was here. But I'd be remiss if after Dr. Ganim speaks, the first person I'd like to recognize is the chair of the Environmental Committee for a few words, and that's Senator Sosnowski, because she's been such a leader on these things. So if I could start, number 7 is expanding Rhode Island's agricultural and seafood industries, and the 8th topic we addressed was applying strategies that increase recycling, reuse, creating resources, and local jobs. Marie.
Thank you. So these initiatives are no stranger to Director Coit, for certain. The LASA, which is the Local Agriculture and Seafood Act, that is an initiative that has been funded through the Department of Environmental Management in the past, but it's been an annual appropriation, and we wanted to make certain that it was clear that there was support for it to continue. The Seafood Marketing Collaborative has been another very successful venture, and again, Senator Sosnowski working with DEM, and they've come up with a logo to actually market our seafood and to hope to open new markets for our local seafood. Again, something that's been kind of on an annual basis that needs some continuation. The Rhode Island Commerce Corporation is next on the list, and I just saw Secretary Pryor enter the room. And we would like the Commerce Corporation to actually use some of its job development incentives for the agriculture and seafood industries to hope, again, that we could promote more jobs and to promote sustainability in those fields. And finally, and Mackie is here, yes, we're hoping he's our guru to try to break down regulatory walls, I think, and we're hoping that the number 7D actually, particularly working with businesses, particularly in the agriculture, and RINLA has actually raised this with us, and Shannon's here to talk about some of the obstacles to particularly the green growing industries. Lastly, on recycling, this is actually the longest recommendation, but in a nutshell, we think there's huge opportunity for business growth by folks who use our discarded items. So the more we can recycle for reuse or repurposing, the more jobs we see growing out of there. And hopefully we can talk a little bit more about those opportunities.
So before we begin, I can't talk about LASA, or the Local Agriculture and Seafood Act, without taking a moment at this time to recognize Chairman Sue Sosnowski, who's been a real leader in all of these areas, the chair of our Environmental Committee. Susan, if you'd like to say a few words.
I'd love to. Thank you, Madam President.
And you're not just limited to LASA.
Oh, okay. Well, my enthusiasm is just bubbling over because for years, as I've been serving in the Senate, this has always been my initiative to encourage more growth of our green industries, particularly agriculture, and all the other agriculture, aquaculture, and that encompasses a lot as we've made changes to our right to farm law over the years to include more innovative methods and new forms of agriculture. But I am so happy to see in this report, Madam President, that the economic importance of agriculture is being recognized. And in spite of our difficult times, as you know, when the economy was really tanking in Rhode Island, agriculture was growing, and pardon the pun. But because we have been making such improvements and working very closely with Department of Environmental Management as far as making grower-friendly laws, changing the laws, regulations that have been changed and relaxed at DEM, it's allowed for young people to get into agriculture, all forms of agriculture, and do well and make a profit, which hasn't always been the case with agriculture in Rhode Island or any place in the country. And we are leaders in the green industry in Rhode Island. So as far as recycling, I could go on and on about that. We're doing a good job, but we can do so much better, and with relaxing in regulations and with the help of the Commerce Corporation, this is big business, and there's jobs that are just waiting to be filled with this industry. So, but I'll keep my enthusiasm under wraps, Madam President, but thank you so much for this.
As you can imagine, she's been texting all weekend. I would like to take an opportunity to switch a little bit over to recognize Michael O'Connell, our Rhode Island Resource Recovery Director. And once again, this is the really great part about a roundtable concept, is that there's so many of you that we have one-on-one meetings with, but to have you all here together. So please, if you would.
Thank you, Madam President. Point A is on number 8. That's why we come to work every day. You know, we want those numbers good. We want those numbers better. We think they can get better. For perspective, I know we talk solar, we talk, windmill. Those are, in my view, those are nice niche industries. Those are going to grow with the economy and with the cost coming down. But in our business, the great majority of the jobs in the recycling and reuse are blue-collar jobs. They really are. But they're good blue-collar jobs because they're reliable, they're dependable. They pay relatively well, and they have good benefits, and they're here for the duration. The thing I struggle with in this area that we need help on is trying to find good people. It's hard to find someone, not hard, but you have to really go through a lot to find someone who has a high school degree or a GED, can pass a drug test, has a work ethic that he wants to come into work every day and do a good job and get ahead, can read and follow procedures. Those are the kinds of people we want to hire. Those are the kinds of people we need to fill the vast majority of these jobs in this industry. We've seen it and we find them, but it's one that you worry and go, is there going to be enough? And so that's my thought here on that part of it, is that we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can on the high school level to generate the quality of workforce that we're going to need here to do these jobs.
It's very important. Director Coit?
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to, reiterate what you said, which is Senator Sosnowski has been an incredible leader on promoting agriculture and seafood. And much of what we are ready to work off of in terms of a strong foundation is because of the work that she's done in your committee. And emphasize that we've grown, you said, an overall economy that's grown 1%, food-related businesses have grown 9%. And through a combination of both focusing on preserving farmland, reducing barriers, and marketing local food, we've really had an opportunity to grow businesses with important seed money, like the LASA grants, but also working on improving infrastructure at our ports and marketing what we have here, which is abundant, diverse variety of seafood, shellfish, produce. So I think this is a hugely important area, and we've been talking a lot with the Commerce Corporation about how we can further turn our food industry into a place where we have more distribution, more processing. It's all upside here. And then secondly, just wanted to commend the leader on extended producer responsibility and all that we've accomplished in that end, and say that Mike O'Connell and I and Terry Gray here have been working hard to look at how we can also build off that strong foundation and create green jobs out of waste.
That does give me a good lead-in. Leader Ruggiero, would you like to say a few words at this time?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, and I appreciate your comments, Madam Director. I think sometimes that when we initiate policies here, we don't do what we really should do, and that's the follow-up, and to see how those policies are working and see if there's cost-effective, see if they're promoting job growth. I think what we can do, and especially on the subject that Dr. Ganem just took up, recycling, I think there's other items that can be recycled. You know that we have a deadline as far as the use of our landfill, And I think that if we initiate and start looking at some of the programs that other states do as far as recycling, we can maximize our recycling potential. So I'm hoping to look at that particular subject this session, Madam President, and hopefully we can do a little more in the recycling end to get a little more life out of our landfill. Thank you.
Thank you. I think those of you that know, this is an issue that's been near and dear to the leader's heart for years now. I'd like to also at this time recognize one of our most traditional environmental businesses, and that's the Rhode Island Nursery Landscaper, Shannon Brawley.
Thank you. Those of you who know Shannon Brawley know that I am not Shannon Brawley.
Very confused. That's why I have to be honest. You see me kind of going.
Shannon had a prior commitment today. I am Catherine Weaver. I am the past president of the Rhode Island Nursery and Landscape Association, and I have worked very closely with Shannon over the past several years, and many of you here in this room. We are so thrilled to be at this table with you all. We've had a great working relationship with Director Coit, Senator Sosnowski, Dr. Gold, and many others. And we are particularly pleased that our industry is being recognized for what it can bring to this table. You know, I like to say that the people who work with the land in whatever capacity really are the definition of resilience, because we deal with a changing environment day in and day out. So we have a lot to offer, and we look forward to seeing this initiative succeed.
Thank you. I also, at this point, because I know we've mentioned a couple times regulatory, McCleary, thank you for joining us today. And would you like to chime in on any of the initiatives once again?
Thank you, Madam President. I actually was receiving specific dispensation to speak for the entirety of the Executive Office of Commerce here, so I'll broaden, because Secretary Pryor couldn't stay, so I wanted to make sure that I sent his regrets, but also I'll broaden the conversation, not broaden, actually take several of the things together. So energy, environment, economy. There are three things that probably 50 years ago we would have argued you have to choose between, but I think this report and all the great work of the Senate and the stakeholders here have made it clear, along with the evolving industry, that you don't have to choose between those three things anymore. And specific examples in all three of those things on energy efficiency, working with National Grid and OER and the Infrastructure Bank. Our competitiveness on energy efficiency is very, very important, even within New England. And it's because, at the end of the day, as a business owner, you pay your bill, not your rate. So even if our rate of electricity is higher than it may be in Kentucky, we have been making the investments in energy efficiency, so the volume of electricity that is consumed is much smaller. We can be competitive. This is a critical capability that we have. On environment, not just on the regulatory side, but I wanted to mention the business navigators at Commerce RI, who have been assisting both folks in the seafood industry and others at navigating the complicated regulatory process it takes. So that's the immediate response, which is that we've created this concierge capability to help people navigate that. But at the same time, the long-term work with the Office of Regulatory Reform to try to loosen and reform those regulations to make it a lot easier to start and grow a business here. And then lastly, on economy, I actually, prior to this, was an environmental commissioner in Connecticut, and recycling and jobs is something that's very, very close to my heart. And one of the things that I thought the director said very well, those jobs don't go away. Trash wants to stay home. Recycling wants to stay home. It's not going to go to China, and they're going to be good jobs, and they're going to be here because we are going to, as our waste amount goes down, recycling goes up. It's all the same volumes, and people have to handle that. And we are very excited to do whatever we can to assist both in the growth of existing industries here and attract new recycling industries to this state. We think this can be a great place for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Well, this has been a broad discussion. We started, and I'm going to recognize the senators in a few minutes, but I think it's important to that this is about the economy as well as the environment and bringing everyone together. And to that end, I'd like to recognize my friends from, we have a couple of chambers. We've already heard from Northern Rhode Island, but the Greater Providence, Lori White, if I could.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And I'd like to join my colleagues in congratulating you and Dr. Ganem in putting together this important stakeholder discussion and focus on an important set of industries. Listening this afternoon, I had a couple of observations around the whole portfolio of initiatives that you have set forth here today. The first around the workforce issues. I think those of us who are close to the workforce development pipeline know that there is a real shortage of individuals going into the skilled trades in the HVAC areas. And being able to excite the marketplace, if you will, to make sure that we have a pipeline of individuals who would like to go into this kind of work and to show them that there are opportunities in an evolving industry that pay well and that have access points all along the education spectrum is an important thing. So really focusing on this as a place where young people can turn, where they can make a living and have a career path is very important to the workforce development efforts of our state. The second point I'd like to make is the whole concept of the delivered fuels industry. And we have many members of the chamber that are part of that oil heat industry that are doing a really terrific job of being sensitive to the evolving needs of what's happening to create situations for their fuels to be more environmentally responsive. And many of our homes, in fact, the majority of our homes in the urban areas do heat with oil. So being able to integrate these fuel bases of delivered fuel across the spectrum and doing that in a positive and collaborative way, I think is very important to a major employment sector in our community, particularly a sector where there's a lot of family-owned businesses. So integrating them immediately in a very positive sense is important. Also, I want to note that during the course of all this, we've identified a number of ways where these industry sectors that we are trying to really push forward dovetail nicely with the economic development plan that was released last week by the Commerce Department, and opportunities in the advanced industries around maritime, extreme environmental issues, energy efficiency, food, and recreation. So what we're talking about today fits very nicely into both the advanced industry sectors and also the opportunity industry sectors that were outlined so very nicely. So these recommendations cover a wide gamut of ideas and thoughts, and it really rolls up very nicely into the overall conversation that we've been having about how to push forward with our economic development efforts broadly.
Thank you, and I'd also like to thank Erin Donovan Boyle for coming all the way from the City by the Sea. If you would, Erin.
Well, thank you, Madam President and Senators, for inviting us to participate, but certainly for the work that has been done for this report. It's extremely comprehensive and touches upon all aspects of economic development with this specific focus of green jobs, from the building trades to first entry into the workforce all the way up to advanced manufacturing and technologies. Certainly, the Newport County Chamber of Commerce is in support of all of these initiatives. In particular, the concept around adaptability and resilience is a big project underway at our City by the Sea, working with Rhode Island Nursery and Landscape Association in the workforce training program that was outlined in the program. The City of Newport is looking to help grow and expand those green-related industries on the island and throughout the state with RINLA. And we're also working on a number of initiatives to help attract technologies and grow within what is already in existence with our major industry sectors down in Aquinic Island, being the defense sector, high technology, and marine trade. So we're very excited to see the work that you have done and support your initiatives going forward.
Thank you very much. I want to give some, let me start. Leader Algier, did you want to say anything?
I'll just say a couple of things. Under Teresa's leadership over the past few years, the Senate has promoted legislation which provides, I think, a background for more jobs and economic growth in our state. And this is just a piece of the puzzle. albeit very, very comprehensive and covers a lot. When these recommendations are implemented, they certainly will provide, I think, a significant amount of growth in our economy. And this is a great area to do so, whether it be aquaculture, seafood industry, recycling. But I'm just going to just touch upon what Scott mentioned. Whether you're rehabilitating a home, whether you're building a new building, commercial or residential, whether you're restoring a home, so many trades are involved. Energy efficient trades, carpenters. This is the small stuff that puts people to work. And in this room right now, you've created a round table with so much energy in this room. I mean, what we have at the universities, our public schools and private schools, what we have with our state departments and what we have in the private industry, there's just so much. And that's what we have to capitalize on, and that's what this plan, I think, will do. And hats off, and the Senate, under your leadership, Teresa and Dominic and Sue, will continue working with staff like Marie. They do a great job in providing that framework so we can capitalize on those niches in those areas where some states haven't touched yet. So I'm happy to be part of it.
And at this point, before we just see if there's any roundup comments, I want to introduce all the senators that have been able to join us. Maybe if you want to say anything, we have Senator G here. Just raise your hand so everyone can see you. Did you want to add anything, or you're all set? Okay. We have Senator Gail Golden. Senator Lombardo was here. I don't know what happened to him. And maybe just help me down the end. I can't. So Senator Conley, Senator Pagliarini, Senator Coyne. Am I missing anyone? Senator DePalma. And Senator DePalma, who I'm looking right at. And Senator Miller just walked in. He heard I was doing recognitions. He's going to have to watch it. But that being said, I also want to give a very special thanks, and then once again, if anyone has any additional comments, not to just Director Marie Ganem and the Senate Policy Office, but also Linda George, who's our environmental expert, Maria Tumber, Kat Perez, Karen Lowe, George Mason, and Anne-Marie DeMello. Thank you to each and every one of you, not just for your help with this support. I did want to ask, are there any other members who here today? I will tell you, my experience with the art charrette, and we went with the round table, this idea, was that the real benefits of that first meeting came after the meeting. It was when people were able to put the name on that letter or email that they get with the face and say hi today and follow up with the discussion when the next issue comes around and the next bill comes out. And that's really what this is for today, a call for action, a plan for action, an ask to continue to your commitment to the work that you've been doing, an opportunity to recognize Senator Lynch Pratt, I think, who I saw back there. Did I see her? Is that just ahead? No? No, her hair. I look like you. So now she got a recognition and she wasn't here. It's Kelly. You looked like her for a second. But I really want to thank you and recognize that you're all doing this and ask you to continue working together. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add who's here today? Oh, certainly. Michael, no, I just wanted to make sure I got all my introductions in. You can grab Scott's.
I thought I'd just, from my own perspective, add a thought on, as we move forward towards implementing some of these ideas, that should they come to legislation or regulation, I'm a free market person, so when it happens, that's at the end of everything. But when that happens, the responsibility, the authority, and the funding should go together. That's what makes for an efficient, effective operation. When you split those up, you get worse than better results. And so we've been working with DEM on some of the EPR things, using those principles of responsibility, authority, and funding going together to make it work more effective.
And I will say that any initiative, we work with our colleagues in the House, we work with the governor's office, whether it's been Rep. Ruggiero, Rep. Carson, Rep. Handy, they've all been leaders in this area. I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out that I'll get in trouble for. We look forward to working with them, and certainly all the directors here today that are Governor Raimondo's appointees. Their mere presence indicates her commitment to this area. I'd like to, that's no, I wanted to make sure that everyone got introduced. Why don't you come right up? Sure. Roy, please.
I want to take this opportunity to thank you publicly for your vision and support and what your Senate has done over the last several years for the Deepwater Wind project. We started sending building trades people to that project last winter, and the hours are starting to become considerable. And I think by the end of this coming summer, you'll see the total amount of hours just on 5 turbines. You know, the big picture. I mean, not only this is all about the future. You guys had the vision 7 years ago, I think it was. And I just want to thank everybody, all the Senate. Unbelievable.
Thank you.
Country, first in the country.
We like being first, we like being fourth, but we want to be first in everything. All right, thank you to all of you. Thanks so much and look forward to working with you.